Hey YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to go over my garage build at my house I just moved into. It was a carport and I turned it into a garage. So when I moved into the house, there was a very small shed, about 7 by 9, and that's all the outside storage it had. Obviously I needed a place to put my tools, my table saws, everything basically. So I built a new shed. If the video's not up, it will be soon. A 10 by 12 shed to store most of the outside stuff, and then a little bit extra. And then I also turned this carport, which is a 12 by 24, approximately in length. I have about 270 square feet. My old shop had just under 400 square feet. So it's a little smaller, but it's narrower and longer. So everything's kind of tight in here, but I'm getting it organized, and as I do, it fits better. So I started by cutting a footing in, and it's just a 5.5 inch footing, and it wasn't structurally necessary. I could have built right on the pad and went up. However, there's some drainage on the one side of my property that I worry about because it's all cement. It's an RV pad and stuff. So I wanted to get that wall up off the ground some. So I built a wall. It goes down into the ground some, just kind of like a small footing. Raises it about 6 inches off of the ground all the way to the outside perimeter of the garage. Now, what I did to do that is I rented just a small saw. If you are going to rent a saw to do this, I rented an electrical Milwaukee saw. It was not enough. And it came with one battery. The battery overheats way too quickly. Great for small jobs, I'm sure, if you just got to cut like a 1 foot by 1 foot section, or you got to cut a doorway into a foundation or something. Probably works great. However, I had 24 feet. Then I broke up all the cement. Now I could have rented a power hammer or a jackhammer from somewhere for $50 a day. Not a day, but for like a 4-hour period, and then like $120 for a day. But this is not the only project I've done with it, and you'll see it in the video. I went to Harbor Freight. I bought one of their medium-sized power hammers. It's a 30-pound or 35-pound power hammer. And for the price that I would have had to pay to rent a power hammer for 2 or 3 days, which is what I would have to rent it overall, because there's some other projects down the road I'm going to do, and there's also projects I did at the old house, and I knew I was going to be needing it for those times. It just saved money just to spend it and buy a smaller one. It takes a little longer than the big heavier ones, but overall it was some money saved. So if you're going to rent something, a tool, take that into account. If you're going to use it over time, it may be cheaper just to buy one, and then you've got it whenever you need it, and you can sell it when you're done. Just one of the money saving ways I do to build stuff. I do that with a lot of tools. I might buy it, use it for 6 months, and then sell it, because it's cheaper that way for me than renting something. Anyway, back to the garage. So once I did that, I built some forms out of some 2x6 material. Made sure it was all level, and locally we can get those little carts that you pull behind a truck. And I don't know if you guys can get those where you're at, but it was about a full yard to do all of it, and it cost me a third of what having a truck deliver it would cost me. And I did that on the same day that I poured the shed pad out back that you'll see the video for. So anyway, I poured that, got it all done, removed the footings, and then I was ready to move on to building the walls and stuff. So the one main wall is 24 feet long. It's all 16 inch on center, and it is just sheathed with 7/16 OSB. So then I started on the front and back walls. The front wall is framed for a 10 by 7 foot garage door. I ordered that, and because of building material shortages, that won't be here for a couple of months. So right now it's just kind of blocked off with some OSB to keep the weather out until that door gets here. When it gets here, I'll do a video on mounting that. The back wall has the man door. It's a 36-inch man door. I framed that up and sheathed it in OSB just like I did everything else. Once I had the OSB up and I had all this stuff framed and I had the man door all put in, and I'll show you some footage of me putting that in real quick. The weather kind of changed on me, so I moved indoor and I ran all the electrical. So I needed 220 out here. There was no sockets out here whatsoever. So you can see behind me the panel here. I ran 220 from my main panel in the house out here to this sub panel, and then from that sub panel is where all my circuits are. I've got one circuit for one bay of plugs, these that are behind me. There's another bay on the other wall that connect to the garage door power, and then I've got one for lights only. So I moved inside and I did all of that. All of that is just flexible conduit, as you can see. It is 12.3 conduit that I just picked up. I did flex conduit because it was a little bit cheaper than putting in rigid conduit through everything. It's a little bit easier to install as well. I don't have to have any specialty tools for it. So from there I moved on to the siding on the outside. Now I'd put up some house wrap during the inclement weather to protect the OSB. Don't necessarily need it on the outside garage, but it was a cheap insurance for a couple of weeks while it was snowing and raining and whatnot, until I could get the siding up. Now James Hardie siding, there's a few different ways. I could have mounted it straight to the OSB per some of their recommendations. I chose to go with one of the other installations, so I ripped some 2-inch strips out of OSB and I nailed those over all the studs, so that I had good connection points for that. That sets the James Hardie off of that for just a little bit. It helps one in the summer. It's going to keep the garage a little bit cooler because it's not going to heat up as bad because it has that little space in between there. It's going to allow any water that gets behind there just to run down out behind it, so the walls won't get damaged by any water damage. It was just the way I decided to do it. Doesn't mean you have to do it that way if you decide to use James Hardie. Now locally, again, we couldn't get stuff. I had to wait a little while before I could get the trim for everything. It was about 3 weeks before I got that in. I got the 3.5-inch trim in, and I had just measured and hung the previous sheets where they needed to be, and the trim just nailed right up. And I used a Bostitch siding nailer for that. I got that off Amazon. I'll put a link down in the description if you are interested in that. It worked great for me. I never had a problem with it. A couple of times I did have to turn the pressure up, especially on the trim siding, because it's 3/4 inches thick versus the 3/8 inch thick, so it was a little bit more to go through. But once I turned the pressure up on the compressor, it went right through, shot the nails great. So I have caulked everything to keep water out, but it's still 24 degrees during the day most of the time. So the paint is going to have to wait till spring when it kind of warms up. And by then I'll have my garage door in and everything. So with the outside done, the electrical done, and everything else, I moved in all my tools. They had been in storage for a while, and I was kind of anxious to get them back here because there's some projects I want to start. There's a TV stand I want to build, some other things. Real quick, I completely forgot to tell you about the shelves I built. These over here are OSB 7/16 for the shelf. Some of it is 2x4, some of it is 1x3. I'll give you a closer look over on this side. But But you can see that the supports there are just angled into the studs. And then for the lower shelf, it's just kind of suspension bridge. Look, kind of see right there. Suspension bridge kind of, where I attach to the top and use that same 45-degree support to support the bottom shelf. Anyway, I moved everything in. It is, like I said, kind of chaotic and stuffed right now. One, because the garage door isn't here, so I can't put things in a permanent place up in the front. Two, it's a little bit smaller than my last shop, so things are kind of crammed. But it's going to work out. It's going to be good until I can come up with another solution, which is going to be down the road a little bit, where I build a shop with an RV pad next to it. And then this garage will actually be a garage for putting a vehicle in. I appreciate you guys watching today. If you liked the video, hit like, subscribe, hit that little bell icon so you get notifications. I'll have several more videos coming up. I'm going to build a cigar box humidor. I'm going to build a couple of those. I'm going to build a TV stand, like I said. I'm going to build some grips for a 1911 handgun out of some rosewood. Those are all coming up projects, so stay tuned. And appreciate you guys watching.